Hi. Have a nice lunch, or I suppose brunch, because it's the weekend. If you've been following these videos on Saturday and for the weekend, I usually like to do a video that is about history and puts the current events in some kind of historical context. One of the best ways to judge presidential character and styles of leadership is to compare how two presidents handled essentially similar situations and understand what that says about the differences between them. And you have a wonderful basis for comparison here, because Bill Clinton faced essentially the same fight that Barack Obama just faced. In Bill Clinton's case, it was over whether to cut the budget or not. In Barack Obama's case, it was whether to raise the debt limit or not. But essentially, they were the same fights. A Democratic president against a Republican Congress. Minor detail is that in 95, 96, both houses were Republican. Now only one is Republican, but that's not significant. The point is, what does it say about the way President Clinton handled it, and what does it say about the way President Obama handled it? Now, earlier in this week, I told you that Bill Clinton's job approval rose 15 points during his handling of the budget fight, and Obama's has dropped 15 points during it. But the important question is why, and what does this say about presidential leadership? When I worked for Clinton, I did polling about what people didn't like about him. Well, a third of the public thought he was immoral, and wasn't much we could do about that. But a third felt that he was too weak. He was seen then as a flip-flopper, somebody who said, oh, I didn't inhale on marijuana, or flip-flopped on gays in the military, and he was seen as very, very weak. So I told him that I felt that the budget fight with the Republicans would be a wonderful opportunity to show strength and courage and put that negative to bed. And after the fight was over, nobody ever thought Clinton was weak again. The Republicans were amazed that he stood up to them and didn't blink. And he really was very forceful. He began the process by laying out his plan for a balanced budget and a nationally televised address. And then he stuck to it. He vetoed the Republican budget, I think, 2 or 3 times. He let the Republicans shut the government down twice, and he ended up winning a massive victory. Barack Obama did the exact opposite. He never proposed a plan. He never proposed an alternative solution. He just sat back and said, you guys work it out in Congress. Don't bother me with it. And the most he did was to say, come together, we have to have a meeting. And he'd give him a pep talk about how important it was to come to an agreement. And then he would basically leave the room and let them work it out. He delegated it to his vice president, and then increasingly they just shunted Biden aside, and Reid and Boehner worked it out between them. So there was no presidential leadership. Clinton took a lot of firm positions in the course of this government shutdown issue. He would not cut Medicare or Medicaid or education or environment. Everything else was on the table and okay. And he promised not to raise taxes during that. Obama kept taking positions and then jumping off them. He said, I want a clean debt extension. And when he couldn't get it, he said, okay, I'll take a debt extension, but there has to be a lot of new taxes in it. And then when they said no to that, he said, okay, I'll take a clean debt extension. I'll take a debt extension with no taxes and with spending cuts. And the only thing that's really important to me is please, please, please let it go through the election so I can get out of town without having to fight this fight again, because I look terrible fighting it. And the public saw it for what it was, a weak position, a cave-in, somebody who didn't have the courage of his convictions, who was trying for political expediency to cut a deal before, he had to run for another term. When you look at the differences between those two men and the way they handled the fight, you understand that Clinton was a hands-on, deeply involved leader who laid out a vision, largely stuck to it, and pushed through a compromise that was really a centrist position. Obama lurches one way, lurches the other, never really has a plan, never sticks up for what he said he was going to do, always backs down, always caves in, and basically is much more of a referee than a president. What a sharp contrast in presidential styles. Well, thanks for listening, and have a nice weekend.